They stopped answering texts. Not because you were busy, not because you forgot, because something inside you finally said, enough, and you didn't have the words to explain it. Not to them, not even to yourself. All you knew was this: you were giving everything, and getting back almost nothing, so you disappeared. Now they call you cold, distant, broken. But psychology tells a completely different story about people like you. Because cutting everyone off isn't always self-destruction. Sometimes, it's the first intelligent decision you've made in years. Reflective, remembering the attempt. Maybe you've tried explaining, "I just need space," and they made it about themselves. Like your need for distance was a personal verdict on who they are. It wasn't. You're not stepping back because you dislike these people. You're stepping back because you finally saw something you couldn't unsee. You'd been giving pieces of yourself to relationships that gave nothing meaningful back. Connections maintained out of obligation, guilt, habit, never genuine care, never anything real. And once you see that clearly, continuing doesn't just feel hard, it feels dishonest. So let's talk about what's actually happening. These traits that show up consistently in people who disappear from their entire social circle, not because they're broken, because something finally broke through. Trait number 1. You experience relationships as energy, not ritual. Most people think of relationships as something you have: friends, a social circle, people in your life. You think of them as something you fuel, and that fuel, almost always, comes from you. Your brain keeps track, not consciously, not in a spreadsheet, but accurately. What you gave, what came back, what you offered, what was returned. And at some point, you looked at that balance, and it was impossibly off. You were giving time, presence, care, depth, getting back surface-level check-ins, mostly when they needed something. So you stopped. Not because you're selfish, because you finally understood. Relationships built on unequal exchange aren't friendships. They're depletion dressed up as connection. Research on emotional labor shows that people with high relational awareness burn out faster in imbalanced dynamics. They feel the weight of maintaining connection more intensely than others do. So when that weight becomes unbearable, withdrawal isn't avoidance, it's self-preservation. You didn't cut people off because you stopped caring. You cut them off because you cared too much, for too long, and got back too little. Trait number 2. Shallow connection started feeling worse than loneliness. You never needed a huge social circle, but you had people. People you'd text occasionally, see at gatherings. People who made you feel like you had a life. And then slowly, you started noticing something. None of it went anywhere real. Small talk, updates, jokes, the same surface every single time. Nothing that touched the parts of you that actually needed to be seen. And that's when it shifted. Surface-level connection stopped feeling like something. It started feeling worse than nothing. Some people are fine with casual friendships. Light, easy, no pressure. It genuinely works for them. You're not wired that way. For you, connection without depth isn't connection. It's performance. Going through motions that mean nothing and cost everything. Studies on friendship quality show that people who crave depth report higher satisfaction with fewer relationships. 2 real friends over 20 acquaintances every time. But here's the painful part. Deep connection is rare. Most people don't want to go there. They're comfortable on the surface, and that's fine for them. For you, it was never enough. So, when you looked around and realized most of your relationships were shallow, you had 2 choices. Keep pretending it was enough, or walk away and stop lying to yourself. You chose honesty, even when honesty meant being alone. Trait number 3. You saw the pattern and couldn't unsee it. People reached out when they needed something, when they were bored, when they wanted to vent, when they needed someone to fill a quiet evening. But when you needed something, silence, busy schedules. Let's catch up soon. That never happened. Once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. So you tested it. Maybe not consciously, but you stopped initiating. Stopped being the one who always reached out first. Stopped carrying the entire weight on your shoulders. And most of those relationships vanished overnight. Not gradually, not with a fight, just gone. Because they were never mutual, they were transactional. You were the one paying, emotionally, energetically, while they collected. Research on reciprocity shows that one-sided relationships create ongoing psychological strain. Your body registers the imbalance even when your mind is still making excuses for it. And over time, that strain becomes unbearable. Cutting people off wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. You didn't end those relationships. You just acknowledged they were already over. Trait number 4, you hit your limit and needed a complete reset. There's a concept in psychology called emotional bandwidth, the amount of relational energy you have available at any given time. Yours ran out, not because you're weak, because you'd been running on empty for so long, being the listener, the supporter, the one everyone came to, that your system finally gave out. Think about it honestly. How long have you been the one people call when they need to be heard? When they need validation, support, someone to help them carry it? How long have you been holding their weight while yours went unprocessed? At some point, something inside you said, no more. No more of this person. No more of that dynamic. Just no more. You didn't have energy to evaluate which relationships were worth saving. No capacity for difficult conversations, gradual distances, carefully worded boundaries. You just needed everyone to stop requiring things from you, all at once, immediately. And the only way to make that happen was to disappear. This isn't avoidance. This is what complete emotional exhaustion looks like when it finally hits its limit. Not sophisticated, not strategic, just a system protecting itself, the only way it knew how. Trait number 5, you discovered solitude felt better than performance. Here's what nobody tells you about cutting everyone off. The silence feels good, not lonely, not hollow, good. Being alone feels more peaceful than being surrounded by people who never really saw you. And once you feel that, you can't unfeel it. This isn't loneliness. It's not isolation. It's the quiet that comes when you finally stop performing. Research shows that people who choose solitude report equal or higher life satisfaction compared to highly social people. The key word is chosen. Not forced, not feared, chosen. Because solitude isn't empty when you're not managing expectations, not pretending interest in conversations that drain you, not shrinking yourself to fit spaces that were never built for you. Solitude is where you found yourself again, the parts that got buried under years of trying to be what everyone else needed. And now that you've tasted that freedom, going back feels impossible. Not because you don't need connection, because you'd rather be genuinely alone than falsely present. If you cut everyone off, you're not broken. You experienced relationships as energy, and yours were deeply imbalanced. You craved depth in a world comfortable with surface. You saw the one-sidedness and stopped pretending it wasn't there. You hit your limit and needed complete rest. And you discovered that chosen silence heals things that people never could. These aren't character flaws. They're protective responses to relational environments that were slowly draining you alive. People will call you avoidant, say you can't maintain relationships. But the truth is the opposite. You over-maintained them for years. You kept connections alive that should have ended long ago. You gave more than you had. You stayed longer than you should have. And when you finally stopped, they blamed you for the death of something that was already gone. Cutting everyone off wasn't the problem. It was the answer to a problem you'd been carrying, completely alone, for far too long. Now comes the real question. What happens after you disappear? Some people stay in solitude for a while. They build lives around work, creativity, quiet. They find meaning outside traditional social structures, and they're okay. Others eventually reconnect, but differently, with boundaries they didn't have before, standards they won't compromise, clarity about what they need and what they simply won't tolerate anymore. Both paths are valid. The only wrong move is going back to draining relationships because you're scared of being alone. Because you've already proven you're not scared of being alone. You're scared of losing yourself again. That's the fear worth listening to. One note: if your withdrawal comes with persistent sadness, difficulty functioning, or feels involuntary rather than chosen, please consider speaking with a mental health professional. Chosen solitude can be deeply healing, but most of us need at least 1 or 2 people who truly see us. The goal isn't permanent isolation. It's protecting yourself until you can build something real. Which trait hit closest to home? Drop a number, 1 through 5, in the comments. I read every single one, because right now, thousands of people are sitting in chosen solitude, quietly recovering from years of giving more than they had. You're not alone in that. And here's what I want you to remember. You didn't fail at connection. You succeeded at recognizing when connection was costing more than it was worth. That's not isolation. That's wisdom. Proud. Channel identity. If this video made you feel seen, subscribe to UNFELT. This is where we explore the psychology of what you feel, but can't always name. The patterns most people are too afraid to say out loud. And before you go, you don't need to justify needing space. You don't need to prove those relationships were unhealthy. You don't need anyone's permission to protect yourself. The people who are meant to be in your life will understand. And the ones who don't, they're exactly why you needed the distance. You're not too much. You're not too little. You're someone who finally chose themselves. And that's not something to apologize for.